Hello and welcome to Voices Unheard, the podcast where we dig deep into the stories that shape our global reality. Today, we tackle a sensitive but critical topic: how the African continent has been and continues to be exploited. From colonial times to modern neo-colonial practices, Africa's rich resources, vibrant cultures, and resilient people have often been targeted for exploitation. Let's unpack the history, the mechanisms, and the consequences of this ongoing issue, and explore ways forward. To understand the exploitation of Africa today, we must first understand its colonial history. Starting in the late 19th century, European powers carved up the continent during the Berlin Conference of 1884–85 without any African representation. Colonization imposed artificial borders, disrupted local governance, and prioritized extraction over development. For example, consider the Congo Free State under King Leopold II of Belgium. Millions died in a brutal regime aimed at extracting rubber and ivory. Similarly, in South Africa, colonialism and apartheid exploited both labor and land, creating deep-seated inequalities that persist. But colonialism wasn't just about physical resources. It also exploited human labor. During the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans were forcibly taken to the Americas, stripping communities of their workforce and fracturing societies. Colonialism was not just a moment in history, it was the foundation of systems that continue to affect Africa's economic and political trajectory today. Fast forward to the post-independence era, and Africa faced a new challenge: neo-colonialism. While many nations gained political independence, economic control often remained in the hands of former colonial powers or multinational corporations. Africa is home to 30% of the world's mineral reserves, including diamonds, gold, and cobalt, a critical element in today's tech industry. Yet, these resources are often extracted under unfair terms. Let's take the example of cobalt mining in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC supplies over 70% of the world's cobalt, yet mining conditions are deplorable, and profits disproportionately benefit foreign companies rather than local communities. And then there's land. Large-scale land grabs by foreign investors for agriculture or biofuel production have displaced local farmers, exacerbating food insecurity. We see contracts where African governments are pressured into signing deals that favor corporations. This isn't just about money, it's about sovereignty. These deals lock countries into cycles of debt and dependency. Another tool of exploitation is debt. Many African countries face crushing debt burdens, often tied to loans for infrastructure projects managed by foreign entities. This is compounded by unfair trade practices that keep Africa exporting raw materials instead of higher-value finished goods. Moreover, geopolitical rivalries play out on African soil. From Chinese infrastructure investments to Western military bases, external powers often prioritize strategic interests over African well-being. Africa is not just a victim, it is also a battleground for global powers looking to assert dominance. Exploitation isn't limited to resources and labor. Cultural exploitation is another dimension. African art, fashion, and intellectual property are frequently co-opted without proper recognition or compensation. And let's talk about the narrative. Media portrayal of Africa as a continent of poverty and chaos perpetuates stereotypes while ignoring resilience, innovation, and potential. This skewed perspective justifies continued exploitation under the guise of aid or development. Everyone, this is Dr. Chukwemeka, historian and economist.
Thank you for inviting me for this interview.
Dr. Chukwemeka, can you explain how Africa's exploitation shifted after independence?
Absolutely. The exploitation became more sophisticated. Where colonial powers used brute force, modern-day systems rely on debt, trade imbalances, and control over critical sectors like mining. For example, multinational corporations extract resources at minimal costs, leaving little benefit for the host countries.
But Africa's story isn't just one of exploitation, it's also one of resistance. From liberation movements during colonial times to modern efforts to reclaim economic sovereignty, Africans are fighting back. Initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area (AFCFTA) aim to boost intra-African trade. Grassroots movements are challenging land grabs and environmental destruction. Young entrepreneurs and innovators are transforming Africa's image and future. Dr. Chukwemeka, what gives you hope for Africa's future?
Our people. Across the continent, young Africans are innovating, organizing, and refusing to accept the status quo. They're rewriting the narrative and taking control of our destiny.
Africa's exploitation is a story of resilience as much as it is of struggle. While the systems of exploitation run deep, so too does the potential for change. As we wrap up today's episode, let's commit to being more informed and active in reshaping the narrative around Africa. Thank you for listening to Unveiling the World. Be sure to subscribe, share, and tune in next time as we continue to uncover the truths shaping our global community.